So did Shane Gillis actually bomb on SNL as
All
also?
right, so Shane Gillis just hosted SNL, and as expected, people have had mixed reactions to it, specifically with his opening monologue. Of course,
Why
some
people don't like it?
people thought it was offensive because he made gay and Down syndrome jokes, and they thought he bombed. But then also, of course, a lot of people thought he did, and some people thought it because it was offensive, because of the Down syndrome jokes. Like this tweet says, Shane Gillis, who was fired from SNL in 2019 for making racist and homophobic jokes, then went on to say gay
I mean, it's 2019, so
in his opening monologue.
okay, I might have to edit that out.
Comedy is back. Yeah, so as expected, it was a
It's
divisive
like 5 years ago.
appearance, but there's no way it wasn't going to be. Like just him getting fired from the show and then going on to host it, like that obviously was going to cause a lot of commotion. But also, a lot of people are just going to be waiting for him to say something politically incorrect that they can either defend or be outraged by. But in reality, his monologue was not really offensive. Maybe by today's SNL standards, you'd say it was. I get that. But there really wasn't enough for people to be outraged by. Even these headlines were kind of weak. Like the best they could do is he bombs on SNL with Down syndrome and gay jokes. And
Actually, bombs.
Shane
Nice.
Gillis's turn on SNL shows that all too often bigotry sells. So I think these people are probably disappointed. The biggest thing they have to complain about is
Yeah, who's policing the jokes?
some
Come on
gay
now.
jokes. They're probably thinking like, damn, couldn't he have at least been racist or something, or doubled down on the jokes that he made that got him fired? So really, it seems like the biggest controversy from this was if he bombed or not. But of course, the people that don't like him are gonna say it was terrible, it wasn't funny, it was cringy, and then the people that like him are obviously gonna find it funny,
Hey,
think
can you just read this?
it's hilarious, and think he killed it. And in my opinion, I thought some of it was funny, but I wouldn't say he killed it. Like he seemed pretty nervous, which is understandable, and you could tell he's just trying his best to get through it without screwing up. And then he mentioned how the audience wasn't laughing a few times, so it sounded like he thought he was bombing. It's weird though, because if he didn't mention how people weren't laughing, nobody would have noticed, because it sounded like everybody was laughing and it was going well. But then he'd be like, damn, I guess you guys didn't find that one funny, and it doesn't look like you guys are enjoying this too much. So I'll get into that in a second, along with what Shane had to say about his
Okay, there's been nuance on this one.
appearance. He did Legion of Skanks afterwards and talked about it. But before that, I want to talk about today's sponsor, Factor. With
Nice.
Factor, you can get high, which can help store me, and they've reduced the number. Started today 50 to get 50% off
Cool.
your 50% off your first order. All right, so back to Shane's SNL appearance. Like I said during
This is a sponsorship or something.
monologue, he kept acknowledging how the crowd wasn't laughing.
There's my dad, the volunteer assistant girls high school basketball coach. I thought it was funny. All right. You don't think that's funny to bring my dad here to make fun of him for being a girls high school
Nah,
basketball coach? All right.
it did not end well.
That was great. Never mind. Thought that was going to be a big hit here.
As long as he's laughing at his own jokes.
Now, my mom's up there with him. My mom, I'm not going to make funny, but I do have family members with Down syndrome. It almost got me. I dodged it, but it nicked me. It nicked me. It's funny. It's fun. Look, I don't have any material that can be on TV, all right? I'm trying my best. Also, this place is extremely well lit. I can see
It's like similar to soccer
everyone not
doing
enjoying it.
stand-up comedy.
This is, just the most nervous I've ever been. Don't clap now. Shut up.
Yeah, so like I said, I thought the whole monologue was pretty funny, and if he had never mentioned that people weren't laughing, I definitely wouldn't have noticed, and I don't think most people would have. And even when he mentioned it here, when I was watching it live, I didn't think that much of it. I thought it was kind of weird, and I was wondering if the audience was actually not laughing, because I thought he was just kind of joking at first. But
I
then I
mean, you have to actually go there. I mean,
saw this Reddit post of somebody who was there and who was answering questions, and of course a lot
I
of
mean,
people
listening here and listening to the stairs is very
asked him about
different
this.
experience.
Like somebody said, when Shane was saying you guys didn't like that one about a few bits, did it seem like few people were laughing? Because on the broadcast, it sounded like the audience was laughing at most of the stuff. And the person who was there said it felt very subdued in the studio. And Shane had some guests that were laughing, but the people on the floor were quiet, and the people in the bleachers weren't much better. And they said the lights were on so you could see everybody. But they said watching it back, the laughter did seem genuine, but mixed really well and enhanced and everything. And then another person asked them, did it feel like Shane bombed
Is that it does, bro?
the monologue as badly as the press makes it seem? And the person there said they've never been to another taping of SNL, so they don't have much to compare it to, but they have been in the audience for sitcoms and shows like Conan. And they said their impression of the audience last night was they were not particularly responsive at all. They said the cold open was pretty much dead silent. The monologue was scattershot. He was legitimately responding to the live audience when he said he thought it wasn't going well. So it sounds like the people there really weren't laughing that much, but it's hard to tell if maybe that's normally how it is, or maybe the audience just didn't like him from the beginning, which is definitely a possibility and probably the most accurate. You know, they just know him as the guy who got fired from SNL and they read the headlines about him. And they think he's racist and homophobic and all that stuff. So they're like, screw this guy. I'm not going to laugh at his jokes. You know, it could have just been a bad crowd
I even go there then. What?
that did not like him. But it's funny because if
And
Shane
I actually hate watching.
didn't acknowledge it, I don't think anybody would have noticed, you know, because it sounded like everybody was laughing and having a good time. Except some of the members of the band in the background. A lot of people pointed out how they didn't look too amused. But then some other people pointed out how they usually are like that, like they usually don't laugh much. And some people even said the band laughed more than usual. So it's hard to tell if this was just like a normal SNL appearance, like the crowd had a normal reaction, or were the people just really not that into it for whatever reason. I don't know. Because also afterwards, Shane talked about this a little bit on Legion of Skanks. And he didn't mention the crowd at all, at least not in this clip. And I don't think the full podcast is out yet, but Shane did mention the band, and he's like, oh no, they're cool. Like, that's how they usually are. And he also just sounded like he thought it went really well, and he was surprised that people are saying he bombed.
Dude, it's really funny. Depending on the publication, it's either Shane Gillis makes
Yeah.
triumphant return to SNL or Shane Gillis bombs and offends everyone.
I didn't even see offended. It was just like that's what when I watched it, I was like, "What the fuck are they possibly
Yeah,
talking about?"
I
'Cause I was like, "Shit, was it a rough monologue?" And then it was not a rough monologue. And it's
People just staring in the bed.
just like, it's just
And it's just kind of awkward.
weird.
It was fun.
Yeah,
I
it
was
looked
having
fun. It looked
I
like a lot
was-
of fun.
It was funny though because I had my phone off like all week because I was dying.
Yeah,
The
sure.
stress. And then in the car from SNL to the after party, I was like, let's see what everyone's saying. It was like Shane Gillis bombs. Like,
Mr. Everest podcast listener.
I was like, what the fuck? I got done. I was like, damn, I did great.
Yeah,
That was the worst. Like,
the worst hosting in history
yeah,
of
it was
SNL.
so hard not to say fuck.
Really?
That's all I was thinking about. The
Really?
whole set, I was like, don't say fuck, don't say fuck.
Oh, during the yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Don't say fuck this violinist behind me that won't laugh.
She's great. Why is everyone doing that?
Behind
I
me.
wish I saw that they weren't laughing. That would have been funny.
But it
Turn
wasn't
around and
that.
be like,
the
"Alright."
band was the most.
Yeah,
of the
they're
band
totally
was,
fine.
yeah.
They do
Was,
what they
uh,
always do.
Yeah, so I didn't see this full podcast.
Except glazing each
I don't
other.
think it's on YouTube yet. I think they just posted this clip of it. So maybe during another part of the podcast, they ask him how the crowd was. But I was kind of surprised they didn't bring it up right there. But maybe they felt like it would ruin the moment or something, or Shane wouldn't want to talk about it. Or maybe they just really didn't think about it. But that would have been the obvious question to ask. And, you know, I'm not saying they should have been like, well, did you bomb? Like, was nobody laughing? Did your jokes not land? I just think they could have asked, like, was it actually a tough crowd? You know, were you being serious when you said that? Because also, if they're talking about why people thought Shane bombed, you know, like I said, I didn't think he did. You know, if he didn't say that people weren't laughing, I wouldn't have thought anything of it. Like, it's just
Yeah, I don't think I've watched
a
this
very
one, so
average monologue.
can tell.
You know, I don't think anybody was like, damn, this is rough. This is hard to watch. He's dying up there. I mean, you could tell he was nervous, and he obviously pointed out how people weren't laughing. But other than that, it wasn't too bad. But I feel like if you're going to talk about why people are saying that he bombed, you know, obviously there are people that are going to say that no matter what, just because they don't like him. But if you're going to talk about that, I feel like you'd bring up the fact that Shane was acting like he was bombing. So he kind of gave people a reason to say that. And even if he did bomb in front of the SNL audience there, I don't think it's that surprising. You know, I think most people would be like, yeah, of course, the SNL audience isn't going to find him funny. So I would like to hear what he had to say about that. You know, if maybe the audience just
I mean,
didn't
it seems like
like him
copium
from the
among.
beginning, or they just got too offended, or maybe they didn't know who he was and it's just a weird crowd. And maybe that's normally how it is. Like maybe usually people aren't laughing much in the
I
front
mean,
row.
if you're actually funny, people will laugh no matter
But you
what.
just have
The
to kind of
audience.
ignore it. Like, I'm sure looking back on it, that's probably what Shane thinks. You know, you should have just never addressed it because obviously people
Yeah.
wouldn't have noticed, and less people would have been saying that he bombed. But also, I'm sure a lot of people thought it was funny that he acknowledged it and he was like calling out the audience because they were offended and they weren't laughing at his jokes. So I'd imagine he probably will talk about that. You know, I'm sure somebody will bring it up to him. And maybe they did during that podcast. Like I said, I didn't see the whole thing. But at least also during this clip, we got Louis J. Gomez taking some shots at Andrew Schultz and Bert Kreischer.
Like everybody being like, "Yo, me and Shane are boys." It was I was blacked out in every picture. Every single picture posted was like me laying in a parking lot. Like,
I didn't even know I met that guy.
It did feel different with you, and I did not do that because that's gay as fuck. But for the people that did do that with you, like to be honest with you, like
I thought it was nice.
it was because it was different because I genuinely felt like everyone was truly happy for you.
Oh yeah.
And
We're drinking.
It wasn't like a lot of people like, dude, like nobody's happy for Bert or Andrew Schultz.
Live audience reaction. Then
I love them. I think they're great, but great. They're rich and successful. Cool. It's a different thing. Like we legitimately are happy for it, and it's and everyone felt that it's a different thing, and you're just a genuine fucking incredible dude, and fucking that's our gayest moment.
Yeah.
You guys ready to chug this shit?
And you
Let's
still
start with
trash Bert and Schultz.
this. Yeah, I did, for no reason.
Bert and Schultz.
I love Schultz. I love Bert,
Hey,
but you know.
chug that.
But they can suck our dicks. Thank you, Shane.
was with clapping and all.
Yeah, so it's hilarious that you just throw that in there, but it is a good comparison because one of the reasons why people like Shane over Andrew and Bert is because he just seems way more humble and down to earth. You know, like when he makes his SNL appearance and people are like, damn, dude, that was amazing. Like, everybody keeps kissing his ass and praising him and being like, man, it's such a big accomplishment. You can tell he's kind of uncomfortable by it and he just wants to talk about something else. Like, he doesn't seem to care to sit and bask in his
It's like people singing happy birthday to him.
accomplishments and act like what he's doing is groundbreaking. But then there's some other people like Schultz especially where every step of his career is like this giant moment and he's always acting like he's changing the game and everything he does has never been done before and he's paving a new way. And in the beginning, you know, people think it's cool and they're proud of him and everything. But then once you're at the top, like when you're selling out arenas and shit like that, people aren't going to be as excited for you when you talk about how much money you made on your last special and how you changed the game with it, especially because some of his fans feel like the way he released his special
Yeah.
kind of took advantage of them. And if you want to hear more about that, I have a whole Patreon video
And I pull the list on YouTube.
about it.
You guys have
And
the
I also
link there. That's pretty cool video.